Hey, I'm Kyle Petty, and you're listening to Jack Arute's Wind Tunnel.
You're entering the wind tunnel. No spin, no bull, all Jack. Wind Tunnel is brought to you by
Advance Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of NASCAR.
Here is your host, Jack Arute.
Nice to see you back again here inside the wind tunnel. In this week's episode, I'll visit with two drivers from the opposite sides of the globe, but both with exactly the same dedication to pushing themselves to be the very best at their craft. Romain Grosjean has been part of the surging popularity for the NTT IndyCar Series. His move, after more than a decade in the Formula One world, was couched in his final race in F1 when he crashed in the Bahrain Grand Prix last November and escaped the fiery wreckage that left us all believing in miracles. I'll talk to Romain about the crash, his decision to join IndyCar, and what lies ahead for him in 2022. New Hampshire is thousands of miles away from the Formula One world and the IndyCar world as well. But that's where Todd Patnode pilots his NASCAR Modified on the Granite State's tight little bullrings like Hudson, Claremont, and Monadnock Speedway in New Hampshire. Todd will be our Advanced Auto Parts victory lap driver, and you'll learn what the 50-year-old recently told his wife about his possible retirement from racing. Steve Letarte started his romance with auto racing, sweeping the floors of his father's race car business in Cornish, Maine. From there, he joined Hendrick Motorsports at the ripe old age of 16 and rose to crew chief for drivers like Jeff Gordon and Dale Jr. During my visit with Steve, he'll share how Rick Hendrick forced his decision to leave the operation for a television career. And finally, I'll join the rest of the motorsports family as we mourn the passing of Robin Miller. He lost his fight with cancer just a handful of weeks after the passing of another icon, Bob Jenkins. That's this week's lineup. And it will all come your way, but only after we review this past weekend's racing action with this week's edition of Wind Tunnel News and Notes. With both the NASCAR trucks and Indy cars off last weekend, all attention focused on Daytona International Speedway and the Xfinity and Cup Series of NASCAR. Friday night was supposed to spotlight the Xfinity cars in the running of their Wawa 250, but remnants of Hurricane Ida took center stage instead.
We are green flag here. The Wawa 250 is underway. Gragson on the inside, but that inside line is going to form up here. AJ's going to pull down. Go ahead and take that over. Got a little bit of participation falling from the skies here in Daytona. It is summertime in Florida. A couple of pop-up showers. Hopefully this doesn't last too long. All right, cars going to the garage for the evening, but they'll be back out at 12:30.
So that set up a Saturday twin bill with the rest of the Xfinity race, the opening act.
We're back under green here for the Wawa 250 in Daytona. AJ Allmendinger under control.
There you go, 10 push-ins, 10 push-ins. Good work, 10 inside. Inside with a 10, 11 with you. 11 with you, middle 3, clear bottom, clear bottom, get to the bottom.
The calling cars.
Get to the bottom.
Controlling the field, off of turn 4. AJ Allmendinger with the help, but the outside line has the momentum. Haley crosses the finish line and wins. Incredible finish, Justin Haley.
11 got it.
It's just not been the best season. It's been really, really hard on this number 11 Leafield Production team all year. We've had a lot of bad luck, so I was trying to formulate the plan there, and obviously team orders, saw it other day, they were so good, but hats off to College Racing. I think we got the teammate thing down. It's just so special to win here at Daytona.
Then as the sun set over the world's most famous beach, the Cup Series regular season was just 400 miles from its conclusion.
Ready to get underway with the Coke Zero Sugar 400 from Daytona International Speedway. One spot left for the playoffs. Can someone win and get in? Big run for Chase Elliott. He goes up top to try to block. The 21 tries to go by the 9. They make contact. The 9 into the wall. The 9 slides in crash happening.
So much blocking, so much shoving. It just can't last but so long. And how many cars are left that aren't damaged?
With 3 laps to go, Chris Buescher is up front.
Oh, there's a big crash.
19, Mark Truex Jr. He got into the side of the 24. William Byron's in it. Corey LaJoie fakes to the inside, stays to the outside. He's getting shuffled back now. It's Blaney out front.
Suarez in the middle of this.
Harvick running second. A big shove coming from the middle. Daniel Suarez in the 99. He gets turned into the 4, and they go into the wall. The next flag will end the race.
By 5, caution out.
And there is the caution flag. Ryan Blaney wins. The big accident happens behind him.
Corey LaJoie gave me a good push. Two weeks in a row, I've gotten really good pushes on restarts, and they would have won the race, so thanks for that. But it really all started with the 7, giving me a good push, get me out front, and then trying to hold off the 7 and Kevin and a couple other cars, 17. But looking forward to next week.
There also was plenty of NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series action. And for an update on that, we turn to Lenny Baticki, host of At the Track on the Performance Racing Network.
Thanks a lot, Jack. This is your NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series Racing Report. We'll start with congratulations to Ohio's Limaland Motorsports Park and New York's Bethel Motor Speedway. Both tracks were on the side of the 12 as Ryan Blaney pulled into victory lane this past weekend at Daytona. Coming up in Darlington, it'll be South Carolina's Florence Motor Speedway and New York's Claremont Motorsports Park on the 12. Speaking of Claremont Motorsports Park, Hayden Scott got the win there over the weekend. Riverhead Raceway in New York to Jeremy McDermott, and John Cody got the victory at Bethel. Adams County Speedway in Iowa to Jason Reed. Dylan Zampa victorious at All-American Speedway in California. Wisconsin's Madison International to Casey Johnson. Jerry DeGasperi Jr. victorious at Seekonk. Up in Canada at Autodrome Chaudière, Raphael Lassard got the win. Jason Groves victorious at Eastbound, and at Grand Bend it was Jacob Ross. David Oliver victorious at Maine's Beach Ridge Speedway. Colorado National to Chris Eggleston. Braden Fugate victorious at Coos Bay in Oregon. Spencer Reith the same at Central Missouri Speedway. Dominion Speedway or Dominion Raceway in Virginia to Ryan Matthews and Eddie Schlegel. Mark Wirtz and Justin Carroll the same at Langley. And at Motor Mile it was Bobby McCarty and Carson Quapple. Riley Rudell victorious at Washington's Evergreen Speedway. At Grandview things were grooving for Brad Brightbill in Pennsylvania. Greenville Pickens, South Carolina to Bag Tate. Jacob Hefner got the win at Hickory, North Carolina. Wake County went to Bob Wallace. I-80 Speedway in Nebraska to Donnie Schatz. Wayne Hale victorious at Tennessee's Kingsport Speedway. Lakeside Speedway in Kansas, that's where Nick Bidinger got his victory. Jordan Shive victorious at the Salina High Banks. In New Hampshire at Hudson, it was Jason Ryan. Frankie Eldridge victorious at Lee USA. And at Monadnock, Thomas O'Sullivan crossed the line first. That's your NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series Racing Report. Thanks for having us, Jack. We'll see you next time.
And now, you know what happened this past weekend, courtesy of Wind Tunnel's news and notes.
Coming up next.
There's no fuel before, so you really want to pit at the comp yellow because that is your fuel window to the end of the stage. I do think there's an opportunity for 2 tires because you only need 20 laps worth of fuel.
Steve Letarte grew up in the world of racing, and each and every week he shares his experiences with you as part of NBC TV's motorsports team. I'll visit with him after this timeout.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
There is an old adage when many of the Northerners who had an incredible passion for NASCAR racing decided to pack up and, kind of like the Oklahoma Land Rush, move south. The Southerners greeted those Yankees, transplanted as they were, as long as they knew they were going home. But in the world of NASCAR, if you hooked on, you became one of those damn Yankees. And my next guest is exactly that. Steve Letarte started his life in downstate Maine, and then at the very early age, he and his family packed up and headed south, and he joins me now. Steve, from Maine to Charlotte, North Carolina, to Hendrick Motorsports, it's been a hell of a journey, my friend.
First of all, thanks for having me. It has been. It's been an amazing ride. I couldn't be more thankful for the opportunities I've been given. It really starts with my dad. You know, I remember as a little kid on Route 25 at Don Letarte race cars, wide-eyed, eager as could be, watching either that week's late model or that week's modified be put together, and see Dick McCabe and Willie Elliott and Jamie Obey and my heroes walk throughout that shop. You know, people talk about the NASCAR heroes, but for me, it really started in New England. All those Saturday night tracks, Friday night tracks, the ACT tour. I could go on forever. My love of racing was early in life, and in a much cooler temperature area of the country up in New England and Canada.
Steve, you mentioned those great drivers, and they carved a name. But by the same token, you shoulder to shoulder with some really great names, and we'll get to NBC in a moment. Is there any difference between a Dale Jr. or a Jeff Gordon and a Dick McCabe or a Jamie Obey?
The reason I'm successful at my job is because in my mind there wasn't. You know, there is. Jeff Gordon is single-handedly the most talented race car driver I've ever seen drive a race car in my life. I mean, it's no offense to the others, but when you see him and work with him, you're like, oh, wow. Like, it's amazing what these guys can feel. But the racer in me, it's the same, right? The racer in me, what I love about stock car racing, unlike every other sport, right? If you weren't blessed to be 6 foot something, you're not playing in the NBA. If you weren't blessed to be a certain size, you're not playing in the NFL. In motorsport, when a driver climbs in the window and puts the net up, male or female, short and tall, old or young, it's the great equalizer. What can you do on the racetrack? Now, some have more talent than others. Thank goodness. If not, I'd have been a driver, Jack. I'd have been a great driver. I would have been good at, talking to the fans. But I can't drive. I have no skill. But to your point, growing up in New England and seeing those great New England drivers, and then moving to NASCAR and seeing the great NASCAR drivers, in my mind, they're all drivers. They're all wonderful. They're all my heroes. I was very blessed to work with the whole group.
When did you set your sights on Hendrick Motorsports and a life in NASCAR at the Cup level? Because you graduated from high school and already you were on the road crew for Hendrick Motorsports and you were 16 years old.
I think that was the fork in the road. You know, Ray Abraham let you come in, start sweeping the floors at 16. I graduated high school in December, so I didn't go a full season my senior year. The way school worked in Maine, I only had to go to high school until about December, which was great because it means I was available for the upcoming race season in 1997. And I think that was the moment in time where Ray, if he had his vote, would have forced me to go to college. He was always a huge proponent of me and what he thought I could do in my career, but he was also that mentor saying, go to school. Your job will be here. You don't have to panic. But I had caught the bug. School wasn't going to be for me. I was already at the school I wanted to be. I was at the University of Hendrick Motorsports. And if you're going to be a racer, that's the best place to learn. And I didn't know if it was going to work out, but I think it was that moment where I decided, I may end up in college next year, but for right now, I'm going to give this NASCAR traveling circus a try. And I fell in love.
Last week, I had Kyle Larson on the podcast, and I asked him quite simply, Steve, what the secret sauce was at Hendrick Motorsports. And his answer, I don't think would be surprising to you, but I think you can expound upon it. He very quickly said, Rick Hendrick himself, because Rick cares about people.
Well, I think the foundation of their success is Rick Hendrick himself. He is just a great leader, a great person. He motivates the people around him to, be great at what they do, whatever that job might be, and to go above and beyond to be better. And he actually, he cares about his people. And I think that right there is really what makes, a race team or a business really succeed.
So, it's very simple. And nobody wants to believe it's that simple. And I think that's why they can hold on to the secret. Rick Hendrick races to win. In front of winning and in front of trophies are the men and women that make all of that happen. And I think that's been consistent. It hasn't always been easy. We've won races together. We've lost races together. We've seen tragedy. We've seen triumph. We've seen everything in between. And I take myself, for instance, I had an opportunity to leave Hendrick Motorsports to go do television. And when I sat down with Rick 2 or 3 times discussing me leaving, he kind of positioned some other opportunity, really wanted me to stay, gave me some different opportunity. But the last meeting I had, I walked in and Rick Hendrick sat down and I said, Rick, he goes, wait, I'm going to talk. And I kind of listened, yes, sir. And he goes, you don't have a job here anymore. You don't even have one available to you. I kind of looked at him and he said, I can tell you're doing this for the right reasons. You want to go spend time with your family. You want to do that. He said, so I'm going to make the decision easier. You're not welcome here anymore. You got to go. And then that's really the difference, right? You're sitting in front of a millionaire, perhaps a billionaire, and could absolutely do something and twist my arm to keep me to stay because it was better for perhaps him or his team or what he needed. But instead, he put me first, my family first, my kids first. And while that seems like a small gesture, that's Rick to a nutshell. That's why people never want to leave. That's why people that don't work there want to end up there. And that's why, great companies can only be torn down from the inside. So if you make the people within the inside the most important thing in your life, then it's pretty much the best armor you can have.
I have said this many, many times. I grew up and it was all about ABC, from Wide World of Sports to Jim McKay, the Olympics, the litany is it's everywhere. But NBC Sports has become the ABC of the 21st century. And when they took on the project of NASCAR racing and then expanded into all forms of racing, how heavily did they lean upon you?
Well, it started with me and Jeff Burton and Rick Allen. They put some headsets on us and said, we're going to just cover some races. But then I think with our success in our NASCAR coverage, the key to all this is Sam Flood. Our boss at NBC loves motorsports.
Yeah, indeed.
And he, I think, to your point, we'd have those meetings where he didn't really ask, whether we thought it was a good or a bad idea, but he would just have that stare across the glass of wine and say, hey, what would you think if we got the whole IndyCar schedule? Wouldn't that be cool? Wouldn't it be cool to see an Indy 500 on NBC? And then he kind of put the blanket, well, what else is out there? And I think one dinner we were at, we said, listen, the IMSA series is unbelievable. I think the Rolex is undercovered. I think it's a marquee event we should talk about more and more and more. And his commitment to motorsport, I think, is what reinvigorates us week in and week out. To know that our bosses want to be in this space, that our bosses want to tell this story, that our bosses want to make sure everyone knows how great Kyle Larson is and how spectacular of a champion Chase Elliott is. And they're not afraid of, and this is what I really like, they're not afraid of, and they entrust in me to talk about the nuts and bolts. Because most TV guys will be like, oh man, we don't want to talk about horsepower and downforce and pitch strategy. That's boring. We want to talk about sparks and 200 miles an hour. But the fact that they empower us to bring those up in the broadcast, and I think the race fan loves that we speak to them with a level of intelligence that we know they love the sport.
Look, I come from the school where I don't care whether you put 2 turns in the right rear or whether the C-pillar's been adjusted. But to your point, and I think you're being far too humble upon yourself, many of the air quotes technical analysts, they do nothing but just regurgitate all of this stuff and don't help the average listener understand it. I'm not trying to be Dr. Phil here, but Steve, you take your career as a race fan and you mix that with your expertise as a crew chief for 20 years, and you distill it down and create a product I find fascinating, because I feel all of a sudden as if you're not telling me what just happened, you're telling me, just like a crew chief needs to be proactive, what may happen.
We'll see if they feel that 2 tires is all you need, or if some are going to go safe, make adjustments, and put on 4. But looking at the lap times, I would say tires can't be a huge effect because they're still very fast. Some of the drivers actually running their fastest laps of the race in the last 4 or 5 laps.
You used 2 words there that it's my foundation of everything. I only talk about the what if it affects the why. The fan wants to know the why. They can see the what. We're not radio. We have cameras. They can tell, look, what's happening? Well, just look at your TV. This is what is happening. Rick Allen paints the most beautiful play-by-play of the what. He doesn't need our help there. What Rick does, though, is he stays out of the way of the why. So when he says, Steve, this is what's happening, why is it? Boom. It's as simple as that. Take the what and explain the why. And to your point, the nuts and bolts only matter if it affects the why. If it doesn't affect the why, then it's just stubborn, right? We want to talk about the stuff that you don't really need to know. It's the story of the race that you have to kind of every race, Jack, you know this better than anyone. Every single race is an organic living thing.
Yeah.
You can run the same race with the same drivers, with the same rules on the same track on a different day, and the results will be anything. Forget the results. The race itself will look nothing like it. I've gone to Oxford 250s that run 230 laps green. I've gone to Oxford 250s where it's all about the scoring because you've had 200 laps of caution, right? I've seen them both. The point is you just go to be prepared and try to stay ahead of the stories. But the biggest story that I think people miss is it's not the competitors, it's not the cars, it's not the rules. The race is the biggest story we cover. And I have a producer that believes that and coworkers that believe that. And damn, Jack, I get to commentate races I would have watched anyway. I mean, you know, the 4 hours on a Sunday, that was peeled out. I was doing this regardless.
Yeah, but you know the other thing that you do, Steve, and it may be missed by a lot of people, you have a little conspiratorial side to your brain. Every once in a while, you'll drop a dime, and maybe it's because, like you, I've spent my entire life since I was 5 years old, but I can't recall. It was something at Indy and for the IndyCar race, and you said, well, you know, maybe he's doing this, or he could take advantage of the loophole this way. You can't escape that, Letarte. It's ingrained into your DNA.
It is. My dad has been teaching me since I was a little kid, losing his wrenches in the sandbox, that, you know, racing is a jigsaw puzzle. And whoever tries to figure out the puzzle the hardest, whoever gets to the correct answers first, they're going to be the most. And he said the worst thing you can do is try to put the puzzle together the same way every day. And that's how, when I watch a race, I watch it from a competitive mindset. Now, Jack, listen, I still have my bucket list. Don't get me wrong. I love my job, and I love covering races for television. But if I had a chance to work an Indy 500, to work a Rolex, or to work perhaps a Le Mans, those are the three big ones that I would love to try to tackle from a strategic standpoint. I don't have the time, patience, or intelligence to make one of them fast, but I do think I have the time, patience, and intelligence to dissect the race perhaps a different way. And those are the three right across the world. Those three I would love to take part in from a top of pit box.
One final thought, because the hot topic since the road race at Indy for the Cup cars was Kyle Larson and a possible Indianapolis 500 start. I had him on the podcast. And look, you're intuitive. I'm intuitive. Read between the lines. I don't mean to be a rumor monger, but I think he's headed there, my friend. I think he's looking for a one-off.
I think he's good enough to.
Yeah.
And I think that Rick Hendrick 10 years ago tried to hold these drivers so tight because they were so important. I think he's now surrounded himself with these youthful, energetic drivers that he realizes to make them the best, to allow them to go spread their wings no matter how risky. So listen, I think Kyle Larson would be amazing for IndyCar. He's not the only one. I think my old buddy I was sitting on the pit box with, the Indianapolis 500, he might be running the road course at Indy. But I believe Jimmy Johnson, I would be shocked if we don't see him in the Indianapolis 500.
Me too.
So I agree. And, you know, I think the race fans deserve it. The race fans should applaud owners like Rick Hendrick and sanctioning bodies. Like, remember that IndyCar NASCAR double at Indianapolis? I'm not sure got enough play because the fan might not have understood how magical that was, but you and I get it, right? Here are the two series that wouldn't even return emails 20 years ago, and now we're having a race at the same facility.
Before I let you go, we were met with some very tragic news earlier this week, or actually last week, when we lost Robin Miller. I'm going to a little bit later in the show have a tribute to him, much the way I did with Bob Jenkins. But your thoughts about Robin Miller, because while he spent the majority of his time in the world of IndyCar racing, he was a very expansive thinker, and he always, I think, shared the same passion that you, Jeff Gordon, myself, just a host of people that became his friends shared, and that's a passion for motorsports in general. Your thoughts?
I think, you know, when you Robin Miller, much like Bob Jenkins, you know, you're talking about the heroes that helped cultivate my love of motorsport.
Yeah.
While I was around it, my love of motorsport and national motorsport were the men and women that brought it to my radios, my TVs, my newspapers, my magazines. And Robin Miller was that one. And Robin did it only how Robin could. He threw two-seam, chin-high fastballs, pitch after pitch after pitch. I made the transition from competition to broadcasting. He was one of those journalistic icons that was on my Mount Rushmore that said, I'm not going to try, my crew chief career was built after all the great crew chiefs I was fortunate enough to work for. Well, my journalism broadcast career is built around, I call it my Mount Rushmore of journalism. The ones that had such an authentic, believable, likable following and deserved it. And Robin Miller was one of those, right? I didn't want to be Robin because nobody could be Robin, but his style was infectious if you loved him and infectious if you hated him. And that's indeed what made him so wonderful at his job. And motorsport has lost someone dear to it. And there's a vacuum. We all have to remain, because he carried a huge load of bringing motorsport to the fan base around the world. And every one of us, none of us can carry that load. We're going to have to find a way to divvy up that huge load through the hundreds and hundreds of us that still do it. That's the only chance we have, because nobody will ever replace it.
Well said, my friend. Listen, looking forward to the remainder of the season. Do appreciate your visiting with us, and continued success as you try to help knuckleheads like me understand what's going on top of these pit stands in the minds of these strategists, whether it's NASCAR, IMSA, I don't care, whatever you get assigned to. It's been a real treat. And I should point out, you still have racingjobs.com, and I'm an avid listener to Motor Mouse. Man, you field those softballs, but what I love is the way you can take a hot poker to whether it's Kyle or even when you got Jeff wound up the way you did after Indy.
It's great. It's great. I have some great coworkers. The fans call in, make the show great. Listen, the fans make it all work. Jack, I appreciate the time. It's always good catching up. Best of luck in the future, and I can't wait for this final run in the championship. This NASCAR season is going to be wonderful.
Me neither. Hey, coming up next, he's been turning left for more than 25 years. I'll visit with Todd Patnode, a modified racing ace from New Hampshire, when he takes his Advance Auto Parts victory lap after this message.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
I'm Kyle Rickey from MRN Radio, the voice of NASCAR. They are the foundation of American motorsports, the launching pad for racing's future. Time now for the Advance Auto Parts Victory Lap, brought to you by the NASCAR Advance Auto Parts Weekly Series, driving local racing and local communities forward.
It takes a special skill set to drive a modified. Taming those pocket rockets is not easy, especially when you try to do it on quarter mile and third mile, the little bull rings. But for many, many years, that's exactly what this week's Advance Auto Parts Victory Lap driver has done, and with a great deal of success. Over a number of decades, he's beaten some of the best at places like Claremont, Hudson, and Monadnock. In fact, his 7 Monadnock Trek titles ties him with former driver Punky Karen as the king of the track. It's great to have West Swanzey, New Hampshire's favorite son, Todd Patnode, join me here on Wind Tunnel. Todd, you've been at this for quite some time. Does it ever get old?
No, it does not. This is how I relax. This is fun.
Really? Driving in close quarters with open wheels is how Todd Patnode relaxes.
Don't have to think about another thing on the world.
What is the magic to mastering a modified on a short track like that?
Paying attention for a lot of years from the guys that did it before me.
Is there anybody particular that you patterned yourself off of, or that you felt was the best mentor to give you the skill set?
Early when we were in the pro stocks, Punky Karen had given me quite a bit of advice at one time. I've had advice in the modifieds from like Dwight Jarvis and guys like that. When they offer advice, you listen to them.
The national championship title chase this season has got you right in the top 5 back and forth. Now, without question, Peyton Sellers is kind of making a mockery of it down south, winning almost as many races as they count. But how does it make you feel to be a New Englander and being Well, at least in the conversation for the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts National Championship.
Good. I mean, we always watch it off and on throughout the years. You know, you got to have a really good season, so we try not to overemphasize on it until we get late in the season before we really start paying attention to stuff like that. It doesn't really change what we do. We go out weekly. We try to win every race. We go to the track believing we can. That doesn't always happen, obviously, but that's how we set our goals out.
When you look at the world of short track racing these days, I have said for a number of years, Todd, that there was a period of time when NASCAR, whether it was by design or inadvertently, disconnected from short track racing. And they ignored what is one of the primary foundations to their success in an effort, I think, to mainstream into the mainstream sporting world, the premier levels, the trucks, the Cup, and the Xfinity. But thanks to Advanced Auto Parts and some really good promoters, and you race for several of them, do you think that connection is back? Do you feel like you're part of NASCAR?
Yes, I do. You know, the NASCAR program, I mean, everybody can pick it apart if they want to, but there's a lot more pluses than there are negatives to it. You know, I feel with the sponsors like Advance and stuff that come on board and really help out the program, that's all pushed behind the scenes by NASCAR. So, yeah, I believe NASCAR is trying to reconnect with the grassroots racer.
What about the short track promoters in the 21st century? There was a period of time where all they cared about was opening the gates, putting the cash in the till, and selling some hot dogs. But it seems as if they too have committed to an outreach to make you a partner in the success of their specific racetrack. How do you feel about that?
I think the promoters over the last 5-6 years especially have done more for the racers again. You know, they realize, I believe, that without the racers, they can't succeed on their own. So they kind of need us now. Before, I think there was so many cars that they didn't have to emphasize on what was going on with the race teams themselves. So, yeah, I believe they're putting in a very good effort to bring all that back.
You and I are lucky. We grew up waiting, actually cheating, driving before we could get our driver's license. Today's younger generation, forgive me, I don't think, at least I can only relate to my grandsons. They don't have that same passion of, oh man, I can't wait to get my license. They're more concerned about how they can PayPal for their Uber ride. So how do we as an industry connect with the younger generation to ensure that we will have this sport 20, 30, 40, and 50 years from now?
That's a very good question. I don't have a good answer for that. I mean, if you went back 2 decades ago, guys would race 3 times a week, and no matter what it took, they'd go to the racetrack. Now I see guys, they're young, they have opportunities to go to other places, and they just don't do it. You know, they lock into one track.
I'm actually more concerned about the reaction that you may have. You could provide maybe some insight, attracting younger fans. It's one thing. We still have a certain population that'll come up through karts and then legends cars or quarter midgets, and then maybe a street stock. So there is a ladder system in short track racing, but it can't become a sport of old men. We have to have fans that will fill the stands.
I think somehow you'd have to go into like the high schools and maybe the tracks, bring some of the guys and girls that would be interested in this type of stuff, bring them to some of the local shops, let them see what goes on with it, bring them to the racetrack. I mean, I know a lot of them watch racing on TV, but it does no justice for the sport whatsoever. I mean, you don't have the smells at the racetrack. You don't have the action. You can't watch the individual battles that you want to watch. So I think a lot of it is first pulling them into the track, letting them see everything that goes on behind the scenes and how much fun everybody actually has that does it.
Let me ask you and take this in a different direction. How many more years are you going to keep at it?
My wife just asked me that, and I asked her.
I'm sorry.
No, I asked her, I said, how old was Red Farmer when he quit?
He's still racing, Todd. He's like 96 or 97.
And that's what I told her.
Oh, my gosh.
That was my answer to her.
How'd she react to that?
I don't think there was a comment, or at least one that could be made.
Listen, you've experienced a lot of success. Is there maybe one or two things that burn bright that remain on your bucket list that you want to go after?
You know, I'd still like to go back to Stafford with the SKs with my own car at some point. I drove Keith's car a couple of times, really good car. I think I'd have to go back and do my own deal, though, where I get hands-on for the feel I'm looking for. So, yeah, that would probably be one, because I just feel that I left way too much on the table.
Any driver worth his salt, I think, knows when he may have left a little bit too much on the table, and it almost has got to gnaw at you far worse than maybe getting beaten on the last corner or the last lap.
Oh, absolutely. Being beat by competitors is one thing. When you let a track beat you, that's just, to me, that's unacceptable. And it seems I didn't hit what we needed to at Stafford. I believe the track beat me. Listen,
your time will come. I appreciate you taking a little time to visit with us here inside the wind tunnel. Continued success. Good luck. Even if you're not paying attention to the national points chase, there's an awful lot of New Englanders that are, and they're on your side as well. And for the rest of the season, go after it, get some more checkered flags, and just maybe cross off one more notch on that trip to 97 years old.
Thank you.
Be sure to join us again next week for another trip to racing's grassroots with the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Victory Lap. Brought to you by the NASCAR Advanced Auto Parts Weekly Series, advancing the next generation of drivers and champions. I'm Kyle Rickey from the Motor Racing Network.
A big fire there as they exited out of turn 3, and that looks very nasty indeed, and unsurprisingly that is a red flag.
I mean, when you go through that and you have a second first date, second chance in life, a chance of life, yeah, you just take it. I didn't win a race, I didn't win a championship, but we'll have a legacy forever in Formula One. You know, I'm the man that walked out of fire.
Romain Grosjean did indeed walk out of fire during that Formula One crash just 1 year ago, and right into the NTT IndyCar Series. I'll visit with Grosjean right here on Wind Tunnel after this timeout.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
Colton Herta will dive to the inside. Grosjean will go to the outside. What a power move! He drives deep into turn number 1 and is still able to hold off Colton Herta. So Romain Grosjean goes to that second position.
This is for 11th position. He goes for the outside, squeezes him. Oh, look out. Look out.
Look at that.
Well done, Romain Grosjean.
First oval race for the Frenchman, and he's working the high side on a short oval. That was brilliant
yeah, that's great. Keep digging. Let's go.
Well, after almost a decade in Formula One, my next guest moved to the NTT IndyCar Series this season, where he drives the Dale Coyne with Rick Ware Racing entry. I'm pleased to be joined by Romain Grosjean. And Romain, I'm going to grab all of my high school French and try this one on you. Bonjour, comment ça va?
Ça va très bien, merci. Et vous?
You lost me, okay? I'm done.
I'm very well. I'm doing very well. Yourself?
I'm doing well. Let's start with what you've enjoyed this season. And it's certainly, while you wear a full-face helmet, one can see the smile on your face every time you get in the cockpit of an Indy car. Has it been all that you had expected it to be?
It's been better, if I'm being honest. I didn't know what to expect, coming in. New championship, far from home, different atmosphere, different mentality. But definitively, it's been one of the years that I will remember forever, just because I'm having fun. I've been racing at the front, fighting for things that I like to fight for. pole position, podiums. The win is not too far, hasn't come to us yet. And, find some people that are passionate about racing again. And it's just been amazing.
What's been the most surprising thing about this series?
The competitiveness, it's not seen as it is really. It's super competitive, super tight. The guys are very good here, very good drivers all around. And the other thing that I've been amazed with is the support from the fans. It's been absolutely incredible.
I think you probably won a lot of our hearts even before you strapped yourself in the cockpit with what had to be, in my 50 plus years in the industry, the most terrifying and yet compelling coverage of that terrible crash on lap 1 in Bahrain.
Alex Albon in fourth, trying to keep up with Sergio Perez as he speeds into the distance ahead. Grosjean still making moves to try and gain places.
Fuck. And a big fire there as they exited out of turn 3, and that looks very nasty indeed, and unsurprisingly, that is a red flag.
Not only has he survived going through a barrier at 160 miles an hour, within a ball of fire, that the heat must have been so extreme. It was a miracle. It was absolutely a miracle.
When you and your wife sat down as part of that Drive to Survive series on Netflix, it was pretty obvious to me that your priorities shifted immediately away from whatever passion that you pursued for so many years to provide your family with the stability and the love. And you made light of it when you said, well, I'll be forever known as the man that walked out of fire. But what changed between then in November as you recuperated and when you signed the deal with Rick Ware and Dale Coyne?
I think that day has changed my life forever, but for the best. I think I'm lucky to be alive. Every day is a bonus. And when you see life that way, it's very, very different from before. So, I'm still passionate about racing, but my family has been in the center of my attention. We've been discussing on everything. They've been very much involved in the racing part. They came to Nashville and Indianapolis, and, I think for me, it was incredible to have them there. I would never have done that Formula One just because it wasn't well seen, and also it was too busy. But here, my priority is my wife and my kids and them being happy and sharing moments like we did with them.
It was great to see you get your second podium finish at the same racetrack, the Indy Grand Prix course, and have your son Sasha come up. And it was, as I understand it, the first time that they got to actually witness you driving an IndyCar. And he was pretty proud of his pop.
Yes, they were very proud. My 3 kids, very, very proud. And Sasha was actually born I was doing podium in Formula One, but he was less than a year old when the first in 2013, and then the 2015 one, he was 2.5 years. So he doesn't remember any of that. And for the others, they've never seen daddy on a podium. So I think it was a big thing.
You and I, when we last chatted, you remarked about the fact that what is so debilitating about Formula One is even before the season begins, every driver, and we certainly get a glimpse of it with Drive to Survive, every driver pretty much knows what to expect for the rest of the season with an occasional change in the outcome. That's got to be a tough way to make a living, especially when you have a passion for racing.
Yeah, Formula One is incredible, and most of the driver, maybe 99% of the driver in the world wants to get to Formula One because it's the pinnacle.
Yeah,
but it's not all nice and shiny and pretty, as you say. When you have a slow car and winter testing, and there's no update coming on, the season's going to be long. And after 20, 40, 50 races, being at the back, you start doubting yourself, which is normal because you think, what am I doing wrong, or what's going on. I think this year for Kevin Magnussen and myself, it's been pretty clear that we knew how to turn the wheel, and we were actually doing pretty awesome in that Haas car.
When did you begin to no longer doubt yourself? When you came over here to IndyCar racing? Because right from your first test at Barber, we say in America, you, my friend, took to it like a duck to water.
You know, I still had a bit of doubt after that test, and then Laguna Seca test went really well, and then the qualifying in Barber was good, but then the warm-up on Sunday morning, I was first for a very long time, and I was like, okay, you know, I think I get this, and I know to turn the wheel.
You've become a hot property, Romain, as we get close to the end of the 2021 season. Awful lot of rumors involving you in the domino effect that we see in every discipline of auto racing. Without giving anything away, I wonder what that does to your racing ego to know that not only, as you alluded to, have you been, you know, just embraced by the fans, but also you're a commodity that a lot of teams want to take a look at.
Well, it feels good. I'm not going to lie. It feels good. And I'm in a very, very lucky position for sure. And, you know, as I say, I never brought my family to racing because I never felt like they were welcome or I would feel good with them. Here in IndyCar, it's completely different. From day one, I felt like, you know, I was very welcome by the fans, by the teams, by the drivers, and bringing my family was just a normal step for me.
So for the summer vacation, you actually got to enjoy something that from the time you hit the States, you didn't, and that's your family around you. Been calling kind of a base of operations there out of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Look, I'm a guy, you're a guy, you got family coming. How much cleanup did you have to do in the motorhome before mom and the kids arrived?
Well, for that, I am very, very maniac. I like my motorhome to be clean. And it was actually hard to have the kids for a month and a half in the motorhome with toys everywhere, and the thing not being, you know, as you know, perfectly put in place as I would like to.
What was the biggest? I asked your kids this at Nashville. I asked them what they enjoyed the most when you took your little road trip around America. From your standpoint, what was the family moment that shines out from your perspective?
Well, definitely the podium in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
That's going to be number one. Then if you ask my boys, it was monster truck. My daughter, I think she was just happy to be spending so much time with his dad, you know, and obviously cars is probably not a thing that much, but she's been absolutely incredible.
So got a handful of races to complete your first campaign, making a start on your first oval, but I'm really more interested as a first-year IndyCar driver. What do you believe you can get better at before we bring the end of the campaign to a close in California?
Well, definitely ovals is a big thing for me. And then the rest, you know, you can always improve yourself in racing. There's always bits and pieces that you can do better. So I just want to keep pushing and keep working. But, you know, if you had told me that the year was going to unfold like this early in the season, I would say you're completely crazy and wouldn't have believed it.
I don't know if anybody's ever going to be able to get that smile off your face, my friend. You have found a home. We have welcomed you into our home. It's become your home. And just, I speak for fans everywhere, genuinely excited to have you part of the IndyCar community. I appreciate your visiting with me here today, and continued success.
Yeah, thank you very much.
With Advance Auto Parts, you can get the part you need from the comfort of your garage. We have a wide variety of parts in stock, and you can get them fast. Order online with Advance Same Day and get your part with same-day pickup in-store, same-day curbside, or same-day delivery. It's the fastest way to get the part you need, where you need it, when you need it. Advance your auto at Advance Auto Parts and participating CarQuest locations. See store for details.
Last week, the auto racing community lost yet another icon when we learned of the passing of Robin Miller after a long battle with cancer. It is no secret that there were many times where Robin and I were on opposite sides of a topic, but we did share a deep emotional respect one for the other because both of us were passionate about the sport that we so deeply loved. Maybe Tony Kanaan explained that dynamic best when we discussed Robin's passing during a recent episode of Brick by Brick on Sirius XM Radio.
You know, I know you two really well, and I can see why you guys didn't see eye to eye, because you guys are truthful to your opinion. You don't sugarcoat. You tell what it is, and that costs both of you some of your jobs.
Paul Tracy's thoughts may help some of you better understand the profound impact that Robin Miller had on the motorsports world.
His heartbeat was IndyCar. That his whole life was IndyCar and racing. That was what he bled, was IndyCar. And for me, he was a pivotal person in my racing career because, you know, he was a fan of mine to start with. And if he was a fan of yours like he was of mine, or TK, or Dario, or any of the people that he latched to, there's some he didn't care for. He was a guy that talked me off the ledge when things weren't going well. And if I was mad at somebody, or I was mad at Penske back in the day, or when I got fired from Roger and I wanted to say this, and that, and he talked me off the ledge. I don't know how many times about saying something that I probably shouldn't have said. I should not have said. You know, he was a very close friend to me. You know, he was a guy that always had my back, even when things weren't going well. He was a guy that knew the inside of the sport probably better than I did. And
like Bob Jenkins, Robin Miller's life impacted many. But I think Robin himself may have explained it best when he visited his beloved Indianapolis Motor Speedway during the NASCAR IndyCar doubleheader for the final time.
When George called and said, "Hey, I got some good news for you," I said, "What's that?" He goes, "You made the Motorsports Hall of Fame." I said, "Come on." He goes, "No. I mean, really? Bob Schweikert, Jimmy Bryan, AJ Foyt, Mario, Roger Penske. Prudhomme calls me up and goes, "You owe me, I voted for you." I said, "Okay." Chip, Don Garlitz, all the guys that, you know, Parnelli, obviously Mario was great. You just can't, it's so hard to put you can't even imagine that you should probably be in the same sentence with these guys. I mean, think about what they've done. You're a guy, you're a writer. You write about the drivers and the teams and the races. And yeah, you've had great access and people have been cooperative as hell. And, you know, you've pissed a lot of people off and you've made some people happy. But to have relationships with guys like, you know, I'm 17 years old stealing beer at sprint car races for Jim Hurtubise. Just so you might remember my face. At 18, he hires me as a stooge, doesn't pay me, realizes about a week and a half into it, I may be the dumbest person that's ever been around a race car. Has to fire me. Free help when I get fired. So then I start working on Bill Finley's IndyCar team, and then I go to work with Star and beg them to let me cover racing. Then I buy a Formula Ford from Andy Granatelli, thanks Star and Pollard. Then I become part of the Bentonhausen family, buy a midget there and start running USAC, and I'm writing 52 columns a year about USAC racing because USAC was on top. I flunked out of Ball State in 1971, and that's hard to do. It's hard to flunk out of Ball State. You got to try. I mean, you got to just. It's sad because my mom and dad didn't get a chance to go to college, and I just threw mine away. But it was amazing as you get older. So you go from hero worshiping Mario and AJ and Parnelli and those guys, and then you become kind of friends, but you're covering them as drivers. Then you become friends with them. Then you get your home number, you call them anytime you want, they call you back. and then you just feel like you're part of their life. It's just I'm so lucky. It's unbelievable. And you could not chart my career. There's nobody in this day and age that could come along and have the luck I had. It just doesn't happen. I was at the right place at the right time, and somebody said, let's give this poor 45 IQ moron a chance to do something. Because obviously he can't do much. And I just think, then I get sick and all you guys chip in and all the great RP. He calls me and says, I'll fly to the Mayo Clinic. You need money. AJ calls, what do you need? Mario and Rufus and everybody. And it's so humbling to see how many people jump in and want to help. And, you just can't, there's no words to describe. You're just overwhelmed because you're thinking, I'm a guy that writes about racing and drivers and stuff, and these people jumped in. I mean, I'd be dead without my sister and her friends, because I'd have died. I'd have never made it through a couple weeks ago when I had fever and collapsed and all that. But it's unbelievable how many people have just jumped in, and Shunk and Fino and Larry Toe and Lloyd, they jump in and help. Like people die in a bed, they built me an electric staircase. I mean, it's beyond overwhelming. You just can't even, what do you say? How do you repay people for that kind of kindness? You can't. You just have to be, I'm so lucky to have any friends. It chokes you up. I don't cry very often, but God, it makes you cry because you think about all the people who've jumped in to help, and you think, they don't have to do this, and they do. So, I don't know. If I don't get up tomorrow morning, I've had a great life.
Rest in peace, Robin. Your memory, your impact, your thoughts, and your passion will live on. So we have come to the end of yet another episode, but this one also marks the end of season 1. Your support has taken Jack Arute's Wind Tunnel from launch all the way to the top 10% of the entire podcasting universe, and I thank you for that. Season 2 will be coming your way in late January, but fear not. Between then and now, I'll be posting special bonus episodes on a twice-a-month schedule. And these bonus episodes intend to expand into some of the disciplines that I don't regularly cover here, from IMSA to USAC. Wind Tunnel's bonus series intends to bring you interviews from those disciplines, as well as our continued coverage from NASCAR, IndyCar, and the short track world. We'll also unpack NASCAR's playoffs and IndyCar's championship chases with some personal observations and opinions thrown into the mix. I promise you, Wind Tunnel's bonus episodes will offer you the chance to say after listening, wow, I didn't know that. I thank you for your continued support and look forward to joining you soon, right here, inside the Wind Tunnel.
Today's trip to the Wind Tunnel was brought to you by
Advance Auto Parts, the official auto parts retailer of NASCAR.